So I'm Jo Solomon. I am the Nutricia Homeward Strategy Manager, and I'm joined today by my colleague Sophie Stenson, who is one of the clinical practice managers for Nutricia. Next slide, please. So just to tell you a little about who Nutricia Homeward are, we are the leading medical nutrition or enteral nutrition supplier of both nutritional feed and service provider in the UK. We support more than 29,000 patients who need to be enterally fed across the UK, and they could be patients who are living in their own homes, or they could be patients who are living in a care setting or nursing setting. To help to look after those patients, we've got a dedicated team of over 160 nurses who go to visit patients in their own homes to help support them with everything they need to do to look after their enteral feeding tubes. We're really proud of our mission to proudly transform health through nutrition for the people that we serve. Next slide, please. So just to explain a little bit about somebody who's got a feeding tube, basically that could be the sole source of nutrition for somebody who has the feeding tube. It's the only way they get their nutrition, it's the only way they get their hydration, and for some it's the only way that they can actually get medication as well. So to look after those feeding tubes is absolutely critical. There are some very basic procedures that need to be done on a regular basis, and they must be done correctly to make sure that that patient stays safe. It's critically important how to do those procedures to make sure that they are done efficiently, and they need to be able to be done to prevent infection or complications, and more importantly, to stop patients having to be admitted into hospitals through enteral feeding related issues. Prior to COVID, our Nutricia Homeward nurses would go to the hospital to give some discharge training to a patient. And then once the patient gets home, the Nutricia Homeward nurses would go again to be able to help to support those patients, to train their families and their carers, everything they need to do, how to look after that feeding tube to make sure that they can carry out these essential procedures. When COVID hit, we realised there were going to be a lot of problems. It meant that patients won't be able to receive those visits. So we had to start thinking about creatively, how could we find a way to provide those support services for our patients? And also, how could we keep our Nutricia Homeward nurses safe as well? And that's when the idea of patient videos and pictorial guides was conceived. Next slide, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Jo. So yeah, like Jo said, prior to COVID, myself and the homeward enteral nurses would visit patients at home to provide and to train them how to do some quite basic procedures, but they are really important procedures if they're not done on time and correctly. So as we were restricted to go into the patients' houses, every patient on our caseload is a vulnerable patient. We decided we needed to improvise, and we came up with the idea of doing some patient videos. But due to lockdown, we didn't have the access to a film crew like we would normally do. So I actually wrote to my husband. If you can see on those photos there, that's my husband who in a past life was a photographer. He's now a gas man, he's not a photographer anymore, but we did have a half decent camera in the house, and he was more than happy to support with putting together some videos. So we developed some scripts which went through our quality board to make sure that the voiceovers that I needed to record were all accurate and they were within the best practice and within guidelines, and we created some storyboards to actually set the videos up. When we did that, we then had to, as you can see, change my kitchen into some form of makeshift studio. So we didn't have any white sheets or lightings or anything like that, so it was a trip to Asda for a white sheet. It's stuck to my kitchen wall with some yellow gas tape we got off the back of my husband's gas van. And also, as he's not used his camera for a very long time, we needed to get in touch with a videographer who did know what he was doing, and he was really supportive in doing a lot of FaceTime with my husband, Sean. And you can see on the bottom middle picture, he's actually on FaceTime to him there, showing him how to set the camera up to the right settings, how to change it with different lighting and things like that. So there were quite a few errors along the way. It was filmed over a bank holiday weekend. It was a really hot bank holiday weekend. And we just sort of set everything up and, thinking, oh, it's getting dark now, we need to put it away. And then we get a message from Matt, the videographer, to say, actually, guys, this is not quite right. We've not quite got it in the right place. Can you redo it again? So repeatedly setting my kitchen up into some form of studio. Was interesting, keeping the dog out of the way, keeping the kids out of the way, and whatnot. So, like I say, we also, for the voiceovers, sorry, I recorded those first. I downloaded an app. I read from the scripts that we put together. I realised that I can't read out loud, so this took a very long time. I'm much better at improvising than reading out loud. But once they were all sorted, I could listen to the voiceovers on my laptop in the background, so that when I was actually carrying out the activities on the mannequin that you can see there, that I was doing it in time with the voiceovers, so that everything sort of correlated and went together. So yeah, from start to finish, that took about 4 weeks for us to actually film them, refilm them, edit them, and then get them on the website. So yeah, it's quite an interesting time. Next slide, please. And these are the end results. So the videos that we put together were for a balloon water check, which needs a weekly activity that needs to be done to prevent tubes from falling out and to make sure that they are the balloons are intact. Advance and rotate is a really, really important procedure. I kind of can't stress that enough, because if we don't advance and rotate a peg tube properly, then it can lead to something called buried bumper syndrome, which is a really serious complication, and if left untreated, that can be fatal. So we really needed to make that our priority. How to flush a tube, how to measure the aspirate for certain, an NG tube or certain balloon gastrostomy tubes, ways in which to unblock a tube, and also how to open the fixation device of a certain peg tube, which is really quite tricky. So unless you really know what you're looking for, you don't, it's not obvious what you need to do. So we needed to make sure we got some really good close-ups of that one. And then obviously they were the videos, so they went onto the website. Patients can rewatch them, they can pause them, they can, you know, watch them as many times as they want to. And on the back of that, we also then created the pictorial guides, because obviously not everybody has got the internet, or they're not very tech savvy or whatever. So we created the pictorial guides, which again went through all the channels to make sure that they were correct, that the language was appropriate for patients. We've actually got on our internet some software called Browse Aloud, which means that you can actually read these pictorial guides in different languages, which is why I was interested with the subtitles for different languages earlier, because that's not something we've got in the videos yet, but watch this space, that might well be coming now. So yes, I think that's all on that slide. If you'd like to move to the next one, please.
So once we had all these amazing materials ready, it was how did we get them out to patients? So the Nutricia Homeward nurses were fantastic in contacting nursing homes, in contacting healthcare professionals. The videos were being used as online training sessions that the nurses were delivering. The pictorial guides were posted through people's letterboxes. There was all sorts, whatever we could do to get this information in front of patients was what we needed to do. And the guides and the videos are suitable for explaining procedures in both adult and paediatric patients. We knew that, or we hoped that they would be useful, but I don't think any of us realised just how useful they would be, and we were all blown away. It exceeded our expectations that between April 2020 and July 2021, just under 5,000 people have viewed these videos, and we've had several print reruns. So we started off with just 1,000 copies of the pictorial guides, thinking that would be plenty. We've already had over 3,000 printed, and these have all been distributed. So as you can see, the different videos have had different amounts of views, but certainly the Advance and Rotate, which is the one that Sophie alluded to as being very important and could have fatal consequences if it's not done correctly, has been viewed 1,455 times, and they continue to be viewed. So they're still on our websites. We're still getting more printed of the pictorial guides, and we know that they're serving to be really useful to our patients and our healthcare professionals. Next slide, please.
Okay, and this is just some feedback there. I'm not going to read all of these out, but we did reach out to some patients and to some of our dietitians who we work really closely with in the community for some feedback on these. So I'll just read a couple out. We've got one from a patient that said, "My button tube seems to block quite a lot and my memory isn't what it was. I know I have been shown how to unblock a button peg quite a few times by my lovely peg nurse, but the video and guide he gave me with the pictures on has helped me remember what to do, and now I've been able to unblock it myself." So I think that just really shows you how it's empowered the patients, and we've maintained their independence as much as we possibly could in this virtual strange world that we've been living in. And then another quote from the dietitian is, "The Nutricia videos and pictorial guides are innovative, excellent resource for healthcare professionals, patients and carers. Their creation was particularly timely during COVID-19 as a remotely accessible and easy reference guide for anyone involved with caring for enteral feeding tubes." Thank you very much.